Last night, and, I've long surmised this, but, geez, it just smacked me in the head last night watching Aaron Judge. I don't care who you bring up. Aaron Judge is, for me, he's the best New York athlete that I've ever seen. Well, so what does that mean? It means this. Nobody in New York has ever been better at their job doing what they're supposed to do than Aaron Judge is. Aaron Judge goes out there every night, and he looks like a video game. And the crazy thing, Sal, he's getting better. As he's getting older, he's getting more refined. He's getting more polished in his approach. Aaron Judge, we didn't see Babe Ruth, so we'll give a little genuflection to Babe and keep him atop the mountain, I guess. Maybe Lou Gehrig as well. These eyes, been watching sports since the late 70s as a little kid, early 80s as an engaged fan, and then obviously a nutball sports fan. Aaron Judge is the best New York athlete I have ever seen, and I'm not even sure that it's close at this point.
I've been saying for a while, I never thought of it that way. I've been saying he's just the best baseball player I've ever seen. I've been saying that for a long time here. Bonds was that before, but what we're watching with Judge is just remarkable. And I don't know if we give him enough credit, which is fun to do today then, off of the 300 homers. And think about this, too. He stayed healthy. That's always been the question mark with Judge. Well, he could get banged up. And, starting with the preseason this year, spring training, he's banged up. He's going to get hurt eventually. Well, that has not been the case. And really, there's only one thing left for Judge to do, and that's not even hit in the postseason, because I don't care if he doesn't hit in the postseason. As long as the Yankees win a World Series, that's just going to cement his legacy. But I don't know if I could fight you off. I never thought that he's the best New York sports athlete or the best that I've ever seen. Ewing, Messier.
He's so much better than Patrick Ewing. It's not even close.
Well, when you think about it, when you say it the way that you say it, is Ewing the best basketball player that I've ever seen? No. Is Messier the best hockey player I've ever seen? I mean, maybe in the conversation. And again, hard to judge that. There's nobody, LT, you could argue.
Brodeur may have been the best goalie you ever saw. I'm just jumping around here.
Fair enough, right? Some of those guys.
Lawrence Taylor.
But Judge is the best. Right, so Lawrence Taylor, the best.
To me, it's Judge and Taylor. Those are the two.
Aaron Judge is definitively the best baseball player that I've ever seen.
He's insane. I mean, it's so easy to, and we do it, and we get wrapped in, what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that, and why didn't the Yankees do more at the trade deadline? Why didn't the Mets do more? What's going to happen with Pete's contract, Soto's contract, all the things that we hit. It is very easy to gloss over greatness, because greatness is not confrontational.
Right.
Greatness is not going to generate clicks.
Right.
Greatness is not going to spark debate. It could, based on the way I presented today, in terms of, in my opinion, the greatest New York athlete I've ever seen. But it's like, oh, yeah, this guy's great. And then, boom, let's reach for the thing that's a little bit more combustible. I really hope, whether you're 10 or 9 like my little guy, just falling in love with these sports, and my daughter, or 51 like me, or 45, 44 like you, and beyond. I hope that you are watching this man attack his craft and understand and enjoy what he's doing. We might not ever see again, and that's not hyperbolic. What he is just ridiculous.
Do you think that it loses a little luster because of the steroid era?
No, I think. Go ahead. Finish your thought. I want to make sure I know where you're going.
I just feel like where you look at the baseball reference page and see all the highlight, the bold, the black, and you look at it and say, well, whoever it may be, Bonds or whatever, and you just see the loaded juice numbers, and to a certain part of me, that's all I knew. I grew up watching that baseball era. And it got to a certain point where it was like, you just can't take any of it seriously. And Judge is putting up those type of numbers and doing it cleanly. And I understand that there's a part that should say, you should appreciate it even more, which is true. We should. But I feel like because baseball itself, the sport, ruined that part of it, that it almost means less. So when somebody does go nuts and it's 62 home runs or, on pace again for close to 60, whatever it may be for Judge, it almost loses its luster because the baseball numbers don't mean as much as they once did.
That's interesting. I actually see it the exact opposite way, though. I think that it amplifies it. So look at this. Aaron Judge last night is now 7 away from his third 50th home run season.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Even more unbelievable, you know who the other guys are? A-Rod, Juicehead, Sosa, Juicehead, Bonds, Juicehead, Babe Ruth.
Right.
I mean, so I think when you start to delineate and further contextualize the explosion of the numbers, I think it makes his accomplishments even greater.
Now, do you think that people who saw You didn't see Seaver in his prime, right?
No,
Okay,
no,
right.
I didn't. I saw Seaver at the end.
Right, okay, same thing with me. So you think people that saw Seaver in his prime or Mickey Mantle would agree that Judge is better at his job than those guys?
Well, think about this.
I mean, I don't know because I
don't know either.
I know the numbers. I've seen the highlights. Obviously, like it seems impossible to me to be better than Seaver was at what he did.
Sandy Koufax.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, right there. But now again, subjective, lefty, righty. Koufax started very slow,
and then
he didn't have the longevity, so there's a debate there. But Koufax at his apex was better than Seaver.
And then we're
all right there.
We hear about Mantle and Mays, and we also though know that it was a different time. And is it more difficult to do what those guys did then, or what Judge is doing now? I think you could probably make arguments either way, whether it's the lack of depth in competition way back then,
lefty and bullpen specialists, no minorities. I mean, do we know that Josh Gibson? Let me ask something. So the thing about Babe Ruth is the name that is always going to come up. Got it. Babe Ruth is along with Mays and Aaron and a few other titans of the game. Babe Ruth for us as New York baseball fans, it's the first name you heard growing up, right? Now, I don't know this to be true, but to be fair to the situation and the circumstances in which Babe Ruth played, so now I'm sure you saw this a couple of months ago. They decided to include the Negro League stats.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
And there was some debate there. I'm fine with it. But do we know for sure? We don't. It's a rhetorical question. Do we know for sure that Josh Gibson, who was a catcher, had like 800 home runs, they said, although they weren't able to chronicle all the Negro League stats, so it's a little hit or miss with that. Do we know for sure that Josh Gibson would have had more home runs than Babe Ruth? We don't know that. Right. But what we do know is that when Aaron Judge steps into the batter's box, I don't care what Ohtani does. Right. I don't care what Griffey Jr. did. I don't care what Mike Trout did. I don't care what A-Rod did on the juice. I don't care what Reggie did in the 70s. There is nobody doing what this man is doing. Respect it, which I know you do. Yeah. But really appreciate it because this is once in a lifetime stuff.
It's like we are watching the modern day Babe Ruth or Mickey Mantle. And it's not just the home runs. That's the obvious thing. That's the big thing. Okay, 300 home runs, fastest ever in the sport to get to 300 home runs by a long
Ralph
shot.
Kiner, the great announcer. We love Ralph. Yeah.
Coming off the board, of course. And you look at what else he does, though. Not only a leader and the captain, but moves in the outfield. Obviously a terrific defensive player. He hits for a high average. Like, we heard about the legends of Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle and Mays. We are watching one in his prime. I mean, you throw in Soto. I know we did that yesterday where we focus on Soto, but goodness gracious, we're watching the greatest baseball player I've ever seen in my life, maybe the greatest New York athlete that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. It is unbelievable what Aaron Judge is doing on a nightly basis.
888-808-1019. BT and Sal, Brandon Tierney, Sal Licata Show. Nice job by the Mets bouncing back, putting those punk A's in their place. We'll get to them later. Before we get to these calls, let me just give you, and I don't like to inundate people with stats because it doesn't always translate on the radio, so I condensed it. And if you want to dive deeper into this on your own, by all means, go for it. So, to me, the greatest baseball season that I ever saw, Mattingly 85 MVP, as a New York baseball fan.
New York.
Just New York, right? Okay. So just to back up my statement about the Judge being the best, New York athlete, but this is specific to baseball. So Don Mattingly, 85 MVP. And he really should have won it in 86, and a few things in 86 were better than 85, but I went to 85 because he won it. His OPS plus, Don Mattingly, was 156, all right? You know what Judge's is right now? It's 224.
That's ridiculous. Blowing out of the water.
224. A-Rod, who was all hopped up on Lord knows what in 2007 and beyond and before, when he won the MVP, his OPS plus was 176. Judge 224. Insanity. Insanity, Sal.
All his numbers, almost all his numbers. Total bases down a little bit. Run scored down a little bit for now, although we might pass that too.
Talking about what? Judge from what?
2022 versus now.
Go ahead.
Oh, think about that. 2022, he had 62 home runs, breaking the American League record, and should be the record, period.
For sure.
But he's having a better year this year.
I know.
He may not get to 62.
Total bases,
all
OPS
of it, higher
plus.
average, OPS,
yes, sir.
all of it slugging.
I know. Hits, runs.
A better season than his record-breaking season in 60, the MVP season in 2022.
That says a lot. That
How's
says
that
it all.
possible?
Imagine if he actually hit in April.
Yeah.
He'd hit 80 home runs. This guy's making it look like a video game. All right, let's get to you guys here. 888-808-1019 to get BT and Sound on the Fan. Let's get to Chris first up in Belleville, New Jersey. Chris, what's cooking there, brother? How are you?
What's up, gentlemen? How are you?
Hi, Chris.
We're good.
I was going to ask. I was trying to call you yesterday to ask you about Judge, Stan, and Soto possibly all hitting 500 home runs, but just focusing on Judge, 32 years old, 300 home runs, based on his age, his body type, his past injuries. Do you think he's getting to 500 home runs?
Yes.
I think it's a great question.
I think it's an easy one.
But think about it, BT. His age, the injury stuff, and he's got to hit now 200 more home runs.
He will.
I don't think it's as easy as you think. I'm not saying he's not going to do it. I want to really give it some thought because I haven't until you just brought that up. We probably talked about this maybe before the season or at some point in the offseason, but I would assume he would get it, but I don't think it's a layup because of where he's at with his age and his body type and the history of being injured.
Listen, obviously nothing's a layup. Mattingly, I just talked about Mattingly's back went out. Don Mattingly was Stan Musial before he got hurt, and then, of course, he turned into basically a 285 hitter with, 9 home runs and a slap hitter. I get it. You don't want to take too much of Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, drugs, booze, derailed, understood. But let's just, and I don't want to get too wrapped up in the numbers, but push this forward just a little bit. Let's say he finishes with 15 more home runs the rest of the year. So next year he enters the season with 315. Let's say he has a bad season and he gets 40.
Right.
He's already past 350.
Right.
He's definitely getting a 5. What are you talking about?
So I'm just trying to think of what you would need here. Guys who don't juice start to decline, let's say 35, 36, 37. If you give him 50 home runs a year for the next 4 years.
I'm not even giving him 50. I'm giving him 40. And that's his
but then you're going to need more.
That's 200. No, 40 times. Oh, for the next 4 years. All right, so 160 home runs right there. Boom, 40 times 4, 160.
Right, but that's 4 years. That gets him to 36.
Well, that gets him to 460. Oh, at age 30. He's getting there.
Yeah.
Listen, of all the checklist of things that I'm not sure about, that is the one that I don't really have to think much about.
Do you think he's a Hall of Famer already?
100%.
No matter what.
He's going to get the MVP this year. Altuve, the Astro. He should have 3 MVPs.
Right, but if he didn't do anything the rest of his career.
Hall of Fame.
Okay.
No doubt.
I don't know if I would say that yet. Probably.
Yeah,
he's still only 32, and you want to see more bold on the Baseball Reference page. Like he has another. Look, if he has another year or two like this, you're talking about not only Hall of Fame, but you're talking about he's
top 10, top 12 player of all time. It doesn't sound outlandish to say that suddenly. I know.
We talk about Jeter and Mo.
Better than Jeter.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like he's cracking that, or going to start to crack the Mantle, Gehrig, Ruth territory.
It is really insane. And he's such a great teammate and such a good guy.
He's got to win a World Series, though.
That'll be nice. Chris on Long Island. Chris, a little choppy. Let's go, buddy.
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
All right, Chris.
So I hear you guys talking about Judge, the most dominant athlete in New York history or whatever. Well, I agree. He's up there. Would you put him over Mo?
I put him over everybody. He's the best. He's the best I've ever seen.
But to his point, Mariano was the best at his position ever.
Yeah, Chris, I got to let you go. There's a little too much feedback. Sorry, buddy.
Thanks for the call, Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much. Go ahead, Sal.
By a long shot. Like, nobody would dispute Mariano.
Yeah, who's number 2? Well, Tom Eckersley. Bruce Sutter. It's a big drop. I get that.
Right. Lee Smith, he's a compiler. No, but I still think what Judge is doing is just even more special. I understand the argument. You could bring Mariano into the conversation. It's different for me especially a relief pitcher.
I agree.
Than it is for Judge.
And this is going to sound like a denigration, which it's not, because Mariano is Mariano. Easier to get a save or easier to hit a home run?
Yeah.
Come on. Think about it.
Yeah, but at all those World Series, they'll have to mean something.
I know.
To dominate the way that Mariano did
Yeah.
all those years.
Yeah.
You could say it was more impactful or more important to have Mariano than Judge. I don't know, though, if you put the two careers side by side, if you could say that a relief pitcher, whoever it is, even the greatest of all time in Mariano and as dominant as he was, is better than what Judge has done. breaking records.
I would agree with that. If you think about this, now again, entirely subjective, but you're just sitting down, shooting the breeze, having a couple of pops, barbecue, whatever, or at the bar. Who's the greatest player of all time? Like, then you start rifling names. You're not getting to a closer. You're going to hear Willie Mays and Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron and Ted Williams and Ty Cobb and Griffey and A-Rod, if you're okay with the juice, and Barry Bonds, and then Albert Pujols, maybe Miggy is a right-handed hitter, and so on and so forth. Then maybe you get to some starting pitchers. Maybe get a Koufax. Maybe you get a Seaver. Maybe you get a Pedro. Now, I'm not saying that that's right that you omit a position for that long, but that's generally what people do. BT and Sal inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Remind you that you always get the guarantee lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. How about Charlie out in Bethpage? Go ahead, Charlie. What's happening?
Boys, how are you? Great conversation.
Thanks, man.
Nothing to take away from it. Judge is just an amazing. I love baseball.
Yep.
I hate the Yankees, but I love watching Soto and him this year. It's a great thing to watch people pitch around these guys. But Tom Seaver, I was a kid growing up in Brooklyn. He was my guy who pitched on some terrible crap Mets teams and would just not even get the run support and still win games 1-0, 2-1, because he was the most incredible pitcher to watch. Now, maybe I'm biased being a Mets fan.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say Kuzma and Malak were top pitchers, but they weren't in the level of Seaver. That's just me being a Mets fan. But Tom Seaver in his day was like watching Doc Gooden in his first couple of years.
Fair enough. I think about, and thank you for the call, Charlie, and maybe there's some biasness there, and I did bring up Seaver's name when we just talk about New York athletes, so you're thinking about the greatest New York athletes of all time. We started talking about it, that we've ever seen, obviously, our lifetime, hard to go back, but I would be curious, the comparisons to people who watched Mantle every day in his prime to what they think about Judge. And I know there's always going to be the sentiment.
Ask Francesa.
Yeah, well, that was the guy I was thinking
That's
of.
the guy.
I know, because
Mantle's his guy.
He loved Mantle and talked about him all the time. And I know that, like Mike, other New York Yankee fans and Mantle fans, whatever, always are going to favor their guy.
Sure.
The same way that we would with our guys. But if you take the emotion and the sentiment out of it, is what Judge is doing on a nightly basis. Like, I can't imagine Mantle being better than this. I can't imagine anybody being better than this.
That's the point.
You're right. How could you be better? Yeah. So is what Judge is doing, is this what it was like to watch Mickey Mantle in his prime?
It's a really interesting way to look at it. I think that the toughest thing to do as a sports fan, and this goes along the lines of what Charlie just said, bringing up Tom Seaver. And by the way, I made sure I threw Tom Seaver's name into the conversation very early out of respect. Tom's certainly on that list, is to detach yourself from sentimentality. It's the toughest thing, because if you think about the root of our fandom, it goes back to our formative years as kids, whether young boy, young girl. So for me, to so easily say, hey Donnie, I love you, but step aside, it ain't close. At least I'm able to do that. A little tougher position player versus pitcher. I get that. The Judge Seaver thing's different. Brodeur, goalie, Willis Reed, Frazier. There's no right or wrong answer. What I'm saying is, and I like the way you frame it, if you don't think he's the best you've ever seen, even take Lawrence Taylor on his best Sunday against whomever, destroying an offensive line and getting 3 or 4 sacks and a forced fumble and a touchdown, right? Was he better? Like, did he look better than this? And for me, the answer is, I think it's impossible to.
Yeah. How could you look any better? I
don't know.
You throw him a strike, he's going to match it. Even if you don't throw him a strike, he's going to match it.
Like last night, it was out of the strike zone.
Yeah.
888-808-1019. It's Brandon Tierney, Sal Licata show here on the film. Get back to your calls as Dove just screamed in my ear. Yes, I do have a read here. Yeah. Got to read my boy Ice Cube. Got a little Big 3 action coming up. I love Ice Cube.